with that one. Now, golfer Tiger Woods' private life is keeping the tabloids very busy at the moment, with several women claiming to have had affairs and flings with the world #1. Now, while Tiger Woods himself has neither confirmed or denied these allegations, it is reported that friends of his wife Ellen have claimed that while she's obviously devastated by the extent of his alleged infidelities, she does plan to stick by her husband for the sake of their 2 young children. Well, obviously, we don't know the total truth behind this. We've seen lots of headlines, lots of stories. The question is, could you cope with infidelity in your life?
Absolutely no way. And I've said this so many times, and you know what, some people say to me, well then, you know, if you couldn't forgive, you know, say if it was once, for instance, you couldn't forgive that, you know, then maybe, you know, it's my insecurity, it's my weakness, it takes strength to do that. I can't, I really, then I wish I was strong, because to be honest, it would take the one time and that would be it. I would never feel the same again.
Literally, one strike, you're out.
Yeah, I couldn't, because the trust would be gone, and then I'd be insecure about what he's doing, and so it wouldn't be worth it for me. It really wouldn't. And as much, if I was, you know, with, say, my ex still, and Jake was involved, even then, I don't think I could. I just couldn't move forward. I couldn't let it go. But and whatever that makes me, but I just know I couldn't, from the heart.
Well, I just think what you said there about your son, that's what would make the difference, I think, for me now. Years ago, before I had kids, I definitely would have said, that's it, one strike, mate, you know, hit the road, no forgiveness. But I think when there's a child involved, it makes you stop and think, you know, do I want to break up this family? I think it would depend what it was. You know, kind of fleeing possibly a one-night stand. I'm not saying I condone it, and I would find it very hard to forgive, but I go, is it worth breaking up your family for your child then to have his parents separated for one indiscretion? It would have to stop, of course. So I tend to think...
Would you believe that it did stop? That's the thing.
No, you see, I have to say, I am such a jealous person. I think what would happen, I would get eaten. I'd stay. I would probably stay for Jack, but it would eat me up.
Yeah, but every now and then, Ruth, the guilt would come up again, and you know, whatever, you've only got to have a glass of wine, which was what happened to me. One glass of wine, and it all comes back again, and you start saying, and you start pointing the finger and going, yes, but what, and yes, but, you know what I mean? It doesn't go, because I stayed for Keeley, you know, even when I found out about the affair, and it was so wrong, because it was wrong for her, it was wrong for him, it was wrong for me. It destroyed us both. And had we both said, look, this isn't working, let's go our separate ways, he'd have met somebody else, so would I. I'd have had more children, and we'd have all probably now been OK about it all, and maybe been able to speak.
But do you think sometimes children, you know, you made the decision you thought was right at the time, that was right for your daughter, but in later life, sometimes kids say, I wish my parents hadn't stayed together, because all they did was row, and the kids almost blame themselves for you being unhappy.
Exactly. Or the opposite, Ruth, because any divorced couple will know that their kids, no matter what, how bad, want mummy and daddy together, no matter what. And I think I'm not going to sit here and judge anybody for any infidelity, because you just don't know the stories behind it. In the old... I know I keep harping on to the old days, but you used to just turn a blind eye, but you had a certain respect for the person that you were with, because I think sex is a very small part of a relationship. If you've brought a family into the world, 3 kids, it's difficult for a woman to just up and go. OK, women are a lot more financially secure now. I mean, in my mother's day, that would never have happened, because women couldn't fend for themselves.
That's why they didn't leave,
and that's why. But saying that, you know, I've known a lot of couples who have had indiscretions, but there's been more to the relationship than the sex side of it. It all depends on sexual chemistry. Some people go off it very easily. Some people have a higher sex drive. I don't think sex is the be-all and end-all.
I agree with that, but it's not. It's not that. It's when you have lies, secrets,
it's deceit,
and you know, and it's deceit, and you lose respect for that person then, because all those years you've been with that person, and suddenly you realise you've been with somebody who's told you lies for years, and it's not the person you thought you married.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point that you're making, Jane, that, you know, it was just sex and sex isn't a part of the relationship. For me, I disagree, because I think when somebody's holding you and touching you, and for you to think that they're doing that, or they've done that with somebody else, that's a big part of a relationship.
It's a romance,
for me, it is.
I think,
it's the affectionate side, the loving side. You know, it's not just sex in a relationship. Well, it shouldn't be just sex in a relationship.
All of us know that there's a different side to sex. There's the first 2, 3, 5 years of sex, and then there's that wonderful relationship that comes after it. That's what I'm always trying to say.
Or doesn't.
But I think it also is a personal thing. If you can put up with that and still want the happy life and the house and everything that you've worked for yourself as well, you know, then have it. What you should do is maybe go out and have one yourself. You know, just maybe do that way. But because it doesn't always depend on that. I know you're I've got a different attitude to you, maybe. It's just that I've seen so many people who've had a wonderful family life, but just because the sex side wasn't right, didn't mean to say that they had to lose that.
But there are certain people who they are those kind of people. Maybe they shouldn't be married. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they should always be single. And because, I mean, if I'm married, and I would want fidelity. I want, you know, that person to be there for me. I wouldn't want to think it would be very hard for me to trust again anyway. But trust isn't that the basis of the marriage?
But also, it takes two people to make a marriage work. You know, if you're that negative about it, then get out of it.
But I think
if you can't handle it, get out.
that all the different opinions shows it is such a personal thing, and that's why I think I would hate anybody to ask you for advice, a friend, because you know, who am I to say yes, leave him, and then it might be the worst mistake of her life, or stay and they're miserable. So I think it is a very, very personal thing, and nobody knows really what goes on in a relationship behind closed doors, and we're all maybe a bit too judgmental sometimes. OK, interesting. It's all gone very quiet out there. Yes, thinking about that one. The men are looking a bit worried, I have to say.